What can I say? What a great pleasure it is to be involved in the launch of this important book called Science Evidence. I'm Denis Alexander, the co-founder and an emeritus director of the Faraday Institute for Science and Religion based here in Cambridge, which we founded back in 2006. So certainly we are a very young institute compared to the history of this university. Previously, I spent 40 years in the biological research community, so come to this book very much as a scientist, but also as someone who finds the discussion about science and religion deeply fascinating. I'm delighted to note that this book takes both science and religion very seriously, exploring ways in which both fields of inquiry can interact positively together, but also not hesitating to address the points at which some readers might find tensions or even conflict. The first half of the book focuses on science and the many ways in which the sciences provide evidence for belief in God's existence, with a particular focus on physics and cosmology. And here there are some fascinating arguments, including some historical sections that illustrate the huge role that both religious and indeed anti-religious streams of thought have played in acceptance or rejection of scientific theories. Personally, I found particularly fascinating the whole section describing the opposition to the idea of the Big Bang in the totalitarian regimes of the Stalinist Soviet Union and of the Third Reich at the very same time. And of course, in much more recent times, as the authors point out, other cosmologists, such as Sir Fred Hoyle here in Cambridge, was opposed to the Big Bang model, partly because of his concern that it sounded too much like the work of a creator in whom he did not believe. Indeed, it was Fred Hoyle who invented the term Big Bang as a kind of sarcastic joke during a radio interview back in 1949. There's much else that's valuable in this first half of the book, including helpful discussions of the heat death of the universe, the anthropic principle, and the multiverse. There's also a section of useful quotes from leading scientists concerning their own scientific discipline in relation to faith, as well as a chapter discussing the religious beliefs of scientists. Here I hope that a future edition will include also the fascinating data provided Professor Elaine Eklund, Professor of Sociology at Rice University over there in Houston, whose recent work has greatly expanded our understanding of the religious beliefs of scientists in many different countries and cultures. Another interesting feature of this first half of the book is a detailed and critical analysis of the religious beliefs of Einstein and Kurt Gödel, one of the most influential mathematicians of the 20th century. Again, there's some fascinating historical material here, which was certainly new to me and which provides a far more nuanced account than the one we often hear concerning their religious ideas. It would, of course, be indeed miraculous if a scientist like myself agreed with every point made in this great tour through different scientific disciplines. And chapter 11, entitled Biology, the Leap from Inert to Living Matter, does provide some examples. But insofar as the data in that chapter are used to present a kind of fine-tuning argument based on biological data, then that's certainly an interpretation of the data that I find attractive. The second half of the book focuses on evidence for God coming from outside the sciences, surveying evidence from the Bible, the history of the Jewish people, the claims of Christ, and other types of assessment. I think what's important here is that the authors engage sympathetically with readers who might naturally feel allergic to these kinds of arguments beyond science, whilst at the same time not diluting down the power of the arguments presented in any way. Actually, I had a book that came out in French back in 1978, a few years ago, entitled Au-delà de la science, Beyond Science. So it will not surprise you to hear that I agree with this book, that it's perfectly rational to utilize evidence that lies beyond science in the justification of our beliefs. So overall, I hope by now that it's clear that personally, I find this book a valuable contribution to the science-religion conversation. And I hope very much that readers coming from many different backgrounds, be they of any faith or none, might find in these 500 pages much to stimulate thought and initiate fruitful conversation. Thank you.